Hello, welcome to another episode of Asexualise, my asexual life. This is a place to be for asexuality, all things asexual, asexual education, lifestyle, entertainment, and information. So, today I'm going to be talking about Gran Turismo and doing a movie review. Now, if you look at a lot of the literature on it, flyers, etc., you'll notice it doesn't come out till the 11th of August officially. I'm now recording this on the 10th of August live, and I saw it yesterday on the 9th of August. So I'm one of the first people, I guess, in the world, or at least in the UK, to see it. I don't know when it came out in the States, but the actual screenshot I put as the thumbnails shows the 11th of August as its release. So I'm going to spoil this movie. So if you don't want to have a spoiler, if you're going to watch the movie, then please don't watch this video because the majority of it is going to be spoilers. I have to say, though, this film is one of the best films I have ever seen in my entire life. And now I'm going to tell you why. And it might surprise you that it's not just because of the action. So, hear me out. So, Gran Turismo is based on a true story, and it's also based on the video game. Now, the true story has been changed somewhat in order to have dramatic effect. So, it's not completely accurate. There are things that are dramatized in it, things that didn't actually happen. But the main gist of the story, which is where the truth is born, if you like, is the fact there's a guy who was playing, who was a young guy at the time, playing the Gran Turismo game, and he was basically, from what I can tell in the movie, obsessed with it. But the whole point is he played the game, and he played hours and hours of it, and was really into it, and it was his dream to become a real racing car driver. And so that's what he became obsessed about doing. And so in the movie, this young guy who I think he's meant to be 19 in the movie, but the actor that plays him is actually 28. He's very good looking, right? So, and I want to talk to you more about this main character, but the main story is that he is obsessed with the Gran Turismo game. In the movie, his dad wants him to become something else. His brother is a footballer in the movie, and his dad wants him to do something useful with his life, gain a skill, and he's fed up with his son playing video games. The son keeps quite rightly asserting himself, saying, "That's not what I want to do, Dad. You know, that's not who I am. You told me to always go for my dreams. You said always go for what you really want, and this is what I really want." And his dad is adamant that he's not going to amount to anything. He's not going to get his dream. There are tons of people out there in the world that dream of this type of thing, and he's not going to do it, and he needs to wake up to reality. And the mother is actually played by Jerry Halliwell from the Spice Girls. And so this is very interesting. So the family dynamics, a mother and father and a brother. The brother is a huge football player, wins things in football. His dad kind of, you feel, favors the other son, the brother, because he's doing really well, whereas he feels that because he likes video games, it's true, his dad is kind of like not helping. His dad is very much retaliating against him doing that because he thinks it's totally unrealistic. He doesn't live in the real world, and he's just dreaming out, and he will never do it. He'll never achieve those dreams. And so this is basically how the film goes. And obviously, he's determined to get his dream come true. So, one of the things that I want to tell you about in this movie that I was absolutely gobsmackingly in awe of, besides all the action, which I'm going to talk about, was the main character, how they've portrayed the main character, because this is not how they usually do it, and this is really good for role models for young guys on how a healthy guy should be. So the son, who is into video games, ironically, although people think video games is unhealthy and to spend hours in front of a screen is really bad for you, and It's not healthy to stay in your room doing that. You're not getting exercise, you're not going out, you're not really doing much with your life. So there's that going on, right? That the father, that's what the father sees and thinks. But the guy himself, the son, the character, how they've got him in this movie is amazing for a Hollywood movie and for this type of genre, I would say, because this guy from the very beginning is caring. He's sensitive. He cares if others get hurt and if he hurts others. He is cool. He wears like street gear. He's very cool with the way he talks and the language he uses, like street talk. He's very cool when he's with his bros and hanging out with his friends and playing other players online. And so he's a really cool guy, cool in terms of the way he speaks and the way he looks in the clothes he wears. But he's a really caring guy, very sensitive, an emotional guy. So you can see him cry later on, and he really does care that other people don't get hurt. And he's not at all egotistical. He's really humble throughout the whole of the movie. He is very down to earth and he's a warm guy. He's a one-woman guy as well. The attention from girls he finds, like, interesting and nice and unexpected. And in the movie, he just from the very beginning of when we find out he likes a girl, he's only interested in this one girl romantically. Other girls don't matter to him. He just genuinely has a connection with this girl. And this was so refreshing for a Hollywood movie. It really stood out as one of the masterpieces of the film for me, to see this guy who portrays good, healthy traits and is not egotistical, is not driven by his own selfish needs and desires. Yes, he wants his dream, and yes, he strives to get it, and he'll do whatever it takes, but he doesn't want to hurt other people in the process. Even though he knows he'll do whatever it takes, he still doesn't want people to die, people to get, with racing, he doesn't want people to get hurt. And so he's just got a lot of self-determination that he wants to do what's right for him as well and his best. And throughout the whole movie, he was never like about egotism or being the best and ramping himself up to be like an arrogant so and so. He was incredible. His character was amazing. And that's one of the very highlights of the movie. There was lots of others, but this was a huge biggie for me. I have never ever seen a male character, or not in recent times anyway, portrayed this way. He was very different. They even called him a nerd in the film, and they showed how he wasn't the typical guy you would pick to be in the limelight, you'd pick for marketing, you'd pick for being on camera and showing the world what you're made of. He's very down to earth and wasn't being unauthentic, wasn't putting something on, wasn't trying to be a chauvinistic pig or anything like that. He was genuine and he was not trying to be something he's not. And that is so refreshing for a Hollywood movie. And it was in deep contrast to a lot of the other guys around him, especially some of the racists that were and are in the film really big-headed, full of their own self-importance, couldn't care less if they hurt someone in the process of racing, and want to say the things that seem right to society just to make them think they're awesome and they're the best. And so I really love the main character. He's very beautiful aesthetically as well. He is like a British foreign looking guy. He's actually born, to a British actor, but you can tell he's like foreign. I think he's got slightly like beautiful colored skin and he's got like short dark hair and he's clean shaven. I'm really glad they did him clean shaven as well, because there's so many foreign guys I see that have got facial hair and beards. It just drives me nuts. For me, it's totally unattractive. And so for me, he looked really amazing, very good looking. I really liked his character and I was drawn in by him to the movie, and I wanted him to win. So when I say I wanted him to win, he is chosen to go to GT Academy, Gran Turismo Academy. Now, how this happens is he is playing video games, and you find out that he goes to like this place, which is like a massive arcade place with cars to play Gran Turismo, and it's where these young friends of his hang out. And his car has a message on it saying you're one of the people that's got the highest score in the fastest time for doing Gran Turismo, and you've been chosen to apply to GT Gran Turismo Academy. And so he has a time limit to apply to that. He applies to that, but then he has to go and do a race. Unfortunately, his brother talks him into going out of the house, and they end up going to hang out together with other people and drinking loads. But the main character guy, he's sensible. He doesn't get drunk like they do, and this is where he sees a girl that he really likes, and he has a really nice chat with her. And you notice when he's talking to her, he's different to other guys. He's still making conversation and smiling and saying stuff, but it's more in a like cute, flirty, authentic way than the other guys that are just on about sex and getting laid, basically. So he really likes her, the way he smiles. I really loved the way he looked in this movie. He's got this really like cute little smile, and he looked like he genuinely fancied the girl. Actually, I thought, I'm sure you fancied the actress who plays the part, because you could just see it in his little smile that he really liked talking to her. So it came across as he really liked her in real life. Like, if this had been a real life scenario, he wouldn't have minded kissing her and being close to her. So I thought he's very authentic with the girl. They had some good chemistry as well as a good friendship connection. You don't see any sex with them in the movie, and you don't see any sex in the movie, which I really liked, because I hate sex personally as a sex repulsed asexual. So I was really happy about that. And anyway, so he has to play this game, but the trouble is, because they were out with the brother and he saw this girl, the police end up coming along because they're doing stuff they shouldn't be doing, like basically being noisy, drinking and things like that. And I think the cars, well, he's taken his dad's car illegally. So the two brothers have gone out together, him, the main character, and his brother, and they've taken out the car, and I think he's driving, but he hasn't got his proper driver's license. His brother has, but his brother's drunk, so he's driving the car, and then the police come along and stop the vehicle behind, and then he thinks they're going to come after him, so he literally puts the pedal down on the car and rides off really fast so the police can't get hold of him. And then his dad is there waiting for them and is not happy about the fact they took the car without him knowing about it. So you see the main character then working with his dad, and it's a really boring job. And his dad was telling him, this is all you're going to amount to. And he's like, what? And his friends messaging him going, you've got to play this Gran Turismo game now. You've applied for it, but this is actually the race, and you have to be in the race and win it to go to GT Academy. And so his dad's talking, and he realizes that it's not a bonding session. It's not a punishment as such for taking the car. It's because his dad's trying to say, this is all you're going to amount to. You're only going to do a job like this if you do not do what I tell you to do and stop thinking about video games and go and get an education, a real job. And so he realizes that it's a waste of time talking to his dad, that he's missing the opportunity for a lifetime, so he's got to go. So he gets on his bicycle and is riding and gets into the car within a couple of like seconds. He's saying to his friend, can't you just press like play? And his friend's like, I can't do that. It's like illegal for the game. So he's got to get in, chuck his shoes off and get in this like Gran Turismo simulator car and do the competition, and he wins it. And then he gets an opportunity to go to the Gran Turismo Academy, where he meets other Gran Turismo players. And so this guy who who is a marketer, he's gone to pitch to Nissan, and Nissan wants something new, like, to boost their sales basically. And so this marketing guy's idea is if they have a competition where people who play Gran Turismo at home can actually apply to be a real racing car driver, and they tend to take this final person, whoever wins these trials, if you like, they take this final person to go and race against professional racers. And so they think this will be really good for their brand, to prove that they can take someone who's a player in a video game, but it's actually a simulator rather than a normal video game. They that they can do the impossible and make a dream come true, and then lots of other people who play video games will want to buy a real car because they'll believe that they can have the lifestyle of a real racing car driver if they associate Nissan with that lifestyle, with Gran Turismo. So this marketer gets approved, and it's kind of crazy because he's trying to find someone that will teach these video game players how to be a real racing car driver, and he goes through everyone. And when he gets to the last guy refuses, but the last guy's got 25 years, I think it is, experience of being a racing car driver previously, and he's an engineer as well. And he's at this garage being an engineer, but the people he works for are assholes. And this younger guy is the opposite of the main character. He's like his arch enemy and rival, if you like. And this guy is so up his own backside. He's a young guy, but he thinks himself somebody, doesn't care about people's feelings, is quick to get angry, quick to shout at people, has a real attitude problem, thinks he's the best, talks down to people, dismisses people, and is nasty, and couldn't give a toss about anyone but himself. So he's very in contrast to the main character. Anyway, this guy who the marketer wants to get, the engineer, previous racer, he's like, "Oh no, I can't. And with this company, I've given up racing years ago, and it's too dangerous to do what you're asking to do because these aren't professional racing car drivers. They're like kids playing video games." And he's like, "But you've got the power to do that, and if it worked, then it would be amazing. And please, can you help me out?" And the guy's like, "No, no, no." But when there's this meeting, and this young guy who's like the head of him and other guys is being a complete asshole, he decides he's taken enough of it, because the young guy won't take his advice because he's like looking down and telling him he's a has-been. So he leaves and decides to then become the mentor for these people who are the young racing car drivers, the ones that have been doing Gran Turismo simulating game at home. So they then have to go through different trials and stuff, and they're put through to the test, because when you're doing the video simulator game at home, you're not going out on circuit training, doing press ups and push ups and watching all your physical fitness, but to be able to go into a real racing car, you have to be able to be very physically fit, because they said that the force when you're in the car, the speed is like G-force, and it's stronger than NASA and a spaceship, they liken it to. So I think it's stronger. I think these are words saying it's stronger than that even. So it's incredible. So they showed how they have to go through different trials. I have to do a lot of running, a lot of push-ups, a lot of sit-ups, a lot of going on the treadmill, a lot of circuit runs, and a lot of them just can't keep up with that. And so they go down, down, down until they got the final six. And they have to go through racing, to get they're down to the final six, and then they have to do this race. And the main character, he is with the mentor in the car, and the mentor's telling him to brake, and he's like, "I'm trying to brake, but I can't." So he tries to brake, and he fails at braking and ends up going into the bollards, and he's like, "If that was like a real game, you could have been killed." So he ends up in the classroom talking to him and the others, saying, "This is not fun. This is not a game. It's real life, and someone could have got seriously hurt, and we not even be here now." And the guy said and spoke up. This is what I love about him. He's very assertive. He speaks his own mind, even if people don't like it. And he said the pedals were like, where you basically the pedals were glazed. And he's like, no, they weren't. And he's like, yes, they are. And he's like, how do you know that? He's like, because I've been playing the game for years. I think he says it's like 5 years old, because it was always his dream. In the beginning, it shows a picture of the car and him as a little boy, 5 years old, and his dad said to him about cars, and that's how he got interested in it. This is a dad that doesn't believe in him anymore, or doesn't believe in him, full stop, because of he doesn't believe that he can get his dream with the video games. And anyway, so they're down to the last 6, and he says this is glazed. And the guy's like, how do you know that? And he's like, because I've played the video game for years, and I put together cars, because you see these really amazing screen graphics in the Gran Turismo movie. It's incredible. You see like this virtual reality car going around him, and you see like all the nuts and bolts that he chooses and all the car parts that he puts together, and you see it like as an image around him. It's incredible. The cinematography in this movie is out effing standing. It is seriously shit hot. I loved it. It's incredible. And so you see him choosing the different parts on a massive, well, I say massive TV, it only looked like a 32-inch, actually, 32, 40 something maybe. But anyway, it's quite surround, and he chooses the different car parts to put it together. And he puts all these cars, and you see he's very good at doing this. He's very good at using tactics where other people like go on the inside, or they go around the track in a certain way that's actually longer, and he manages to see another way of going, where he cuts through like a red line, going on a red line, and he cuts like in around them, and he gets there quicker basically and overtakes them. So this is what he was doing at home, and you saw him putting cars together, and he's like, I know the car is glazed because I put these cars together all the time. He's like, well, that's just a video game. He's like, but I know it's glazed. And he's like, oh, if you're wrong, you're going home anyway. So anyway, he goes and asks this guy who's who's like the mechanic, and the guy goes, the kid was right. It is glazed. So he then goes back and talks to him. He sees him, I think, on the treadmill at this point, and he says that you were right and you're in. And there's another guy that's gone out of it anyway by then, because he's just too exhausted and can't keep up, basically. So yeah, so they're down to like the final 5, and then they have to do this. They have to do. Well, that is the final 5, isn't it? Oh yeah, they still have to do another race after that. So they do another race, and he does actually win the race, but he wins the race by just a fraction against this other guy at the academy. And the marketer is talking to the Nissan people, because he's the one who's doing all the PR. And he's talking to the mentor, and he's saying, look, this guy who's the main character is not that charismatic. He's not that great on camera. He doesn't always say the right things. But this other guy that came in just behind him, he's much more like the PR person. He's what we need. He's a face we need. He knows what to say. He's very polished. Whereas the actual main character, who won by just a tiny little bit, is not polished. He doesn't say the right things. And so he thinks he's gonna struggle to be good for the company and the PR. And the mentor doesn't care and announces him as the winner, because they had to go and confer and look at the footage, and they wanted to cover it up and give it to the other guy, but he's like, no, I know this. Basically, the mentor knows that this kid, who's not really a kid, knows that he can win, and he sees that he understands the cars and the games better than anyone else. So that's what happens. He wins, and then, but he hasn't got a car license yet. In order to get the license, a specialist license he needs to do racing car driving, he has to go in loads of races. So you see him going in races, and you think, oh, this is going to be so good. He's going to ace these races really well. And so he goes to the first one, and he's in, I think it's 4th place. Then all of a sudden he like has an accident and comes off the road. And then you see him going on these other racing games, and he just keeps getting lower and lower. So he goes to like 18th place. He goes to 27th place at one point, I think it is. and he keeps losing, excuse me, all these races. So he's losing all these races, and his confidence and self-esteem's going down. And then he's got one final race, and if he doesn't come fourth place or later, so come in the final four, the first 1, 2, 3, 4 cars, if he doesn't come within fourth place or more closer to the number one, he is out of the whole entire thing, and he won't get a contract with Nissan, because this is to win a contract with Nissan, a life contract, so that he well, I don't know how long a contract, but basically it's from what I can tell, like a lifelong contract, or a very long contract anyway. He won't get the Nissan deal, and he won't become a professional racing car driver, and he won't do that for a living unless he wins this race. And on the very, very last race, he does actually win and come in fourth place, I think it is. So he didn't win the whole race and come first, but he won it, he came in the fourth place, which is what he needed to win that place in order to go further and be given a contract by Nissan. So he then signs this deal, and he's just signed this deal, and he does this first race that you see him doing after this deal's been signed. And by this time, he before he does a race, his mentor is saying how, what does it feel like to sign the contract? And he's like, what are you going to do with the money? He's like, oh, I'm going to buy a flat. And the mentor's like, you're such a nerd. And this is what I mean by he's really practical, down to earth, really fantastic character. I couldn't have wished for a better character role model for guys. That was what stood out of everything for me, is the fact of this guy is not like other guys. He's a nerd, he is authentic, he is assertive, he is emotional, he is sensitive, he is cool, he is kick-ass. He is all of those things that you would wish for in a healthy, young, really good-looking, well-kept guy. He knows his own mind, he's not afraid to speak his mind. It's a one-woman guy. He's very strong in his needs, and he's willing to say, no, I'm pursuing my dreams. And I cannot tell you enough how much his character, I think, was so different from all the other Hollywood movies I've seen. I mean, sometimes you might get a guy like that, but they usually spoil it, and they usually change him. They usually at some point let all the stardom change him. You've usually got a storyline going on, like a subplot where, oh, his character changes, he becomes crappy, like the girl he was seeing. Now he's a big star, going all around the racing cars tracks. He becomes distant and aloof from his girl that he likes, and he becomes a prick, and he becomes a dickhead, and then the girl has to show him how bad his behavior is. That's what usually the subplot is. But they didn't have this with him. Instead, they showed how different he is, how authentic he is, how caring and kind and sensitive he is, and how he's just into this one girl. Yes, he is a bit slack because he's been busy, and she's like, he finally contacts her because the guy's like, what are you going to do with the money? And he's like, buy a flat. And he's like, you're such a nerd. Why don't you take the girl out and treat her, the girl that you have been looking at her photographs all over your phone for like hours a day and scrolling through them? He's like, oh, what girl? I'm not. He's going, you scroll for them for hours. Like, why don't you bring her over here, get her on a plane, like, and take her out and treat her? And it's really funny. I thought that was hilarious. And the girl meets up with him, and she's really glad, and she's like, oh, I didn't know how many of your Instagram posts I'd like, I had to like before you'd actually message me and call me, and to meet up. So it was about 58, I think she said it was. And so it's really cool because they've added an element of the fact that he is young, he's a really cool guy, he speaks coolly, he dresses coolly, but still he's a sensitive, kind, caring guy, which proves to young guys that you can be a kind, caring, sensitive, healthy guy and still be cool, and still wear cool clothes, and still speak really cool language, and still do cool things, and still be young, you know, and I just thought this is amazing. I really love the character portrayal. I cannot tell you enough how awesome that made me feel. I thought, thank God Hollywood has got this right for once. They have not done a stupid storyline on him. They have kept him the same throughout the whole movie. And praise to the producer who's done that. I really was gobsmacked. I'm like, wow, this is outstanding. So he does his first race after he signed the contract, and something happens. Before that, I'm going to tell you what happens. I have to say about the races he done leading up to this. The races are absolutely amazing. The camera, the cinematography, the way the camera is in the car with the main character, and you're hearing his heartbeat, you're seeing him sweat, you're seeing his eyes and how difficult what he's doing is, and you're seeing all his fears and all his worries in his sweat, in his facial expressions, in his mannerisms. You feel like you're in the car with him. You feel like you're hearing his heart beating so fast, and that his anxiety and adrenaline is pumping. You could feel the car. You could feel like you're in the race with him. It was absolutely frigging fan effing tastic. Like, the racing was incredible. You're on the edge of your seat. You're thinking this is such an amazing adrenaline rush film, dopamine filled film, if you like, for a good reason. And I was like, so hooked on it. Like, I don't play video games usually, but if I ever do in my life, it's always car games usually that I like. And I haven't played car game for years, but whenever I played a bit of a car game, I really like it. And I do love cars, even though I can't drive. I like motorbikes as well. I've got a real thing for them in the sense that I really like them. I think they're really good looking aesthetically. Not good looking as I'm attracted to them, but I just think it's nice. So I guess I'm a bit like a guy in that way, if you want to say that. Um, but anyway, the driving and the action is absolutely phenomenal. You're on the edge of your seat. They're in the car, like with the guy. You're on the track with him. You're seeing all these other cars trying to bump him off of the road. You're seeing debris flying everywhere. You're seeing cars skidding everywhere and going off the rails and basically going in the air and all sorts of stuff. I mean, this is literally, excuse my language, shit hot. This film is incredible. I absolutely say you've got to go and see it. I was literally on the edge of my seat going, this is friggin' amazing. The guy's amazing. The guy character's amazing. The special effects on the actual cars when all the parts come out and he puts the cars together. And when he first starts the racing car driving for real in real time, he actually sees the road. He visualizes it as he is been playing the game in the past in his room. So he sees like arrows on the road, and you see them say that he's in like third place and drop back to 13th place or whatever he's doing, come up like he's actually still in the video game. And so that's really good for video gamers. I think they'll love all those special extra effects of, like them switching between like reality and the video game. I think it's just really, really well done. There's quite a few places that seem to be filmed in the UK as well, which is nice. And I just think it's mind blowing. I just loved this movie so, so much for multiple elements. Anyway, he'd signed the contract, he's got his girl over, and they do go out together because his mentor's like, go and have some fun. The marketer guy's like, go and have some fun. And so first of all, he gets asked for a couple of autographs by girls, but he's like really shocked, like, oh, you want my autograph? Oh, that's nice. So he just gives them an autograph, but he's not like going after them or anything like that. And he's really pleased to see the girl. And then they go to a nightclub which has some really good tune that I love. I can't remember what it was, but I've been clubbing and that's one of my favorite tunes. And he does kiss her on the dance floor, which I love because he's like younger, foreign, good looking guy. My aesthetic type, actually, even though he's not Indian. Short dark hair, clean shaven, really cool clothes, really beautiful looking and great personality, and they have a snog on the dance floor. Now, this is not just a little kiss, this is full on snogging. It went on for a little bit, and I loved that because I'm a romantic asexual. If you're not romantic, you might hate that and think blur, but I love kissing, and I so was happy for them because I really love it when main characters kiss with their clothes on and they're not doing naughty things like putting their hands in places they shouldn't. They're just enjoying mouth kissing, and they're really into each other and they're enjoying it on the dance floor. And the fact that he is not afraid what other people think, what other guys think, what other, like other people think in the racing car industry of his girlfriend. Like he's seen this girl, he doesn't give a shit what other people think, and he just kisses her in front of people, and everyone knows that he's with her, if you know what I mean. So it's a very secure, attached relationship they have. And I really love that because we need more healthy role models in Hollywood movies. We need more healthy relationship models in Hollywood movies and in movies in general, because this can help shape the future of different generations, to show what it looks like when you're not like hooking up, when you're just into one woman and you're enjoying your time with her and you like her, like she's like your best friend, and someone you rely on, someone you really enjoy talking to, and someone one you go to in hard times, and she's got your back, and you've got hers, and you really care about each other, and there's no danger of threat of anyone else coming in between you. He doesn't even think like that. And so I loved that about him. I loved the kissing, cuddling, and everything. So after all this has died down, he's had a really good time. He does his first race, but the mentor sees that there's something on his phone, like he's doing looking up the weather, and there's something to do with the weather that's going to change. And this is a very important part. I'm going to do a big spoiler. So what happens is the main character, is going for this race, and he's going for it, and he's going really, really fast, and he's picking up loads of speed, and he's overtaking, and he basically, as far as I remember, he gets in first place. So he thinks everything is great, and then all of a sudden his car goes right up in the air and on its end. And you are literally in shock. Like when you're in the cinema, I was like, and you're thinking, what the hell is going to happen to him next? So it's like goes up, and you see the car and the whole thing go up like this, and it's like in the air like that, and then it turns over, like goes like that, I think through the barrier, and it's smashed up, and you think that, is he alive or is he dead or injured or what? And so they then, I think it's a helicopter they get, or they get an emergency services person to come get him out the car, put him on a drip, and they put him in this, I think it's a helicopter, and then they take him to hospital basically. And during that time, his mentors there, the marketer guy said, he finds out the main character, he comes around out of his unconsciousness, and he finds out that someone died in that race. And this hurts him deeply emotionally. This is what I mean. The main character is sensitive. He cares about other people. Even though he's racing to win, he doesn't want people to get hurt. And he can't come to terms with the fact that someone died during the race he was in, and he thinks it's his fault because his car overturned and it went in the air, and he thinks it's his fault, and he's a really bad person, and that he shouldn't be there, that his dad is basically right, that he should never have gone and tried to do professional racing car driving in the first place, and if he had listened to his dad and other people, this person wouldn't be dead. And then the mentor and the marketer's like, it wasn't your fault, it was a freak accident. I think they were trying to say that it's because of the winds, because the weather changed, and it wasn't his fault. He wasn't couldn't have predicted that. He didn't know it. And the mentor says he should have taken him in for a pit stop earlier. Then it probably wouldn't have happened either. And so he's beating himself up, like, in his mind, and he's really angry with himself. And his mum and dad were watching this particular race on TV. I told you Jerry Halliwell plays the character of his mother, and they're still in the UK, and they see his car basically get smashed up, and they don't know what's happened to him. So they're trying to call him, and he's in the hospital. He's not answering them because he just feels they're going to say, I told you so. You can never be a real racing car driver because you're just a gamer. And so his girlfriend calls him, and he will answer to his girlfriend. So they've got a really healthy relationship where he feels he can talk about anything. She's not going to judge him. She cares about him. She's got his back. It's a really healthy relationship they've got. And I loved that about the movie. So she's like, oh, have you spoke to your parents? And he's like, I don't want to speak to my dad because my dad's just going to say, I told you so. And then his mum's ringing, and eventually he answers the phone to his mum, but not his dad, and she's like, "Oh, I'm just, I love you. I'm so worried about you." And he's like, she goes, "Do you want to speak to your dad or brother?" And he's like, "No, because they'll just say that they were right and I was wrong." And she's like, "They just want to check you're okay," but he doesn't do it as far as I know in that part of the film. He doesn't. They don't show that he's done that anyway. So anyway, he's really miserable, angry with himself, so upset, and you see him cry, and he's devastated, and it was quite realistic. The tears look very realistic. The makeup that they've done on him, for injuries, that looked reasonably realistic as well. Maybe he healed a little bit too quick, but it was good, and I really appreciated that. And anyway, so he's basically thinking he's not going to drive again, and other people were right about him, and he's thinking of just packing it all in. So then his mentor, as he leaves the hospital, says, "Come on, basically, you're leaving the hospital now with me." And they go back to the scene, and he's like, "Let's do the final lap, because if you don't get back in the car now, it's going to haunt you forever," type thing, I think he was thinking. Anyway, he takes him on this lap to where the accident was, and he tells him the story of how he gave up his dream. The mentor gave up his dream after 25 years because of what happened at a specific racing car track, which I think is the French one. So he tells him what happened, and the fact that he was driving and someone died in that race, and he held himself personally responsible for it, and he decided never to race again. But he always thinks, what if he did? What if he had have raced? And he thinks he did himself a disservice, because he was a very good racer and could have continued the sport and could have carried on being an amazing racer had he not let his mind think badly of him and stop him from doing his dream because of one incident that he blamed himself for. So he then says, "I quit." He said, "I couldn't go through with it. I couldn't carry on." He said, "But you don't look like quitting type to me." And so he's like, "What is it? Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to be like me, who gave up on their dream? Or are you going to actually go back and do what you're born to do?" So the main character changes his mind, and he goes and does the track, races on the track, which is where the mentor went years ago. So it's a French track, and the mentor 25 years ago gave up doing and being a racing car driver because someone was killed. And so he doesn't really want the main character to do it because he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. He thinks it's too dangerous. But he said, "I think you can do it." So he still comes around for the main character. And what's happened since is the rival, the idiot that I was talking to you about, he's been cooking up a storm on Twitter saying that the guy who, the main character who had the accident, who was beating himself up in his mind about the fact that he was responsible for the death, he's actually using that to advantage on Twitter, saying, "Oh, it did lead to the death," and he's creating like this hate campaign. And so Nissan is thinking about shutting down the academy and stopping this whole thing, even though the guy signed a contract. He's like, the the Nissan's thinking about, is it called relinquishing the contract? So anyway, they decide to get a team of gamers, not just him. So he has two of the best other gamers who were at the academy as well, the next two best, come to this final race with him, and it's a 24-hour race. And so it's a bit like a tag team where someone does so many hours of driving, then they go in for a pit stop, and then they change over, and there's another driver, so they drive throughout the night for 24 hours, and there's a whole team. And so this happens during the night, and so the other two said, that basically they think he is the best. They're here to support him, and it's not his fault what happened. They've completely got his back. So you see that they change drivers, and he's doing the driving, but what happens Um, it's the other ones come in and they do X amount of hours as well, and it's just really difficult because he starts getting flashbacks when he's doing the racing, flashbacks of the accident, of the car going up in the air, and every time he's trying to drive, he's just getting more and more of these flashbacks, and it's really difficult for him. And it's just like really hard. And at one point, I can't remember if this is before he gets into that state or after, when they're doing a car change, which I think it's the last car change actually, when they I mean not car change, sorry, the pit stop where they change the wheels and everything. They're using a lighter car, by the way, on the final race, so like an upgraded version of the other one, lighter and faster. So in the final the pit stop, when he changes and becomes the final driver again, because don't forget they've had two others there rotating it, so the main character ends up being the last driver. They are changing the wheel, and what happens is there's a part of the I think it's a part of the wheel, like the bit that goes in the middle, something like I think it's a bit that goes in the middle of the wheel. It rolls off and goes, like, around underneath the car, and the guy can't find it, and so the mentor used to be was an engineer, so he finds it and quickly puts it on there, but by this time, the Gran Turismo car, the Nissan team, the gamer team, if you like, has fallen back, I think, to about 13th position, so he then has to go and do the driving and try and make up the time, and this is when he's having these flashbacks, and he's just in shock, and he can't really drive anymore, and he's falling more and more back, and it's awful, and he just keeps falling more and more behind, and so I know he fell behind before, and I think they were in 13th place at one point, and he's just, like, nearly lost the plot, really. He's, like, there and so stunned. And so the mentor, like, the marketer's like, "Do something." You know, he's like, I can't get him out. I can't get him out of the state." It's like, "Yes, you can. Just do something. You've got to. It's a final race. He's got to win this." And so anyway, he plays him this Kenny G music, which the guy likes, the main character likes, and it calms him down. And it brings him out of this induced state of trauma, basically, and triggers. And he finally comes around and says, "Will you turn that music off?" And so it's brought him out of the state of having triggers and flashbacks and not being able to concentrate on the driving. And the music eventually stops because he keeps saying, "Yes, turn it off, turn it off." And then he has to gather momentum again to win the race. And at the very, very end, guess what? Major spoiler. He finally comes first with his team, for his team, and wins the race. And he goes down in history as being the racer who achieved his dream. So he went from gamer to racer and became a genuine racer. And this is the part that is the true story of a guy who went from playing video games and became a real racing car driver. And at the very end, near the credits, you see the guy who's the real life guy that the story is based on. And it says he's done over 200 races now. And he still likes listening to Kenny G music. And it shows a picture of the little boy at 5 years old, the real little boy at 5 years old, and his dad. And it says that he played his own character stunt double throughout the whole of the movie. And you see the main character, who's the actor, and the actual guy who's the real racing car driver, who went from being a video game player to being a real racing car driver and is doing 200 races now, and who was the stunt double in the movie. You don't find out who's the stunt double in the movie or in the movie at all until the very, very end, when the main character's won. You just see at the last bit there's writing on the screen saying, "And the original character the film's based on, here he is, and this is a real guy, and he's played the stunt double throughout the whole of the movie." And so you're like, wow, you know, both of them together at the end in front of a car, it's just incredible. And I loved everything about this movie. I can't think of anything that I didn't like. I loved everything. I just thought it was an incredible, incredible movie. I really found it invigorating, exciting, elating, on the edge of my seat. I love the racing. I love the video game special effects. One thing I forgot to tell you that I really loved as well is in the final race of the France race, his mother and his father in back in the film now, his mother and his father and his brother came to watch, and his dad came before he even started the race and gave him a hug and cried with his son in a warm embrace, saying he's sorry about, not believing in him, and he does believe in him. He's got his back, and he thinks he's so courageous. I think it's courageous or brave or something like that. And he's so proud of his son. That's right. And the son says, I'm doing all this for you, Dad, because he's put a falcon sticker on the helmet because his dad like something to do with the Falcons. I think it's a football team. And he said, like, "I'm proud of you, Dad. I'm doing it for you." And you see the dad, like, saying sorry to the son, and that he is there for him, giving the son a warm embrace and tears coming down his face. And again, this is a healthy guy when he can admit his mistakes as an adult, as a father, and say, "I'm sorry that I didn't support you, and I am proud of you, and I'm sorry, son." And he's able to cry and let those emotions out as a male father figure, because again, a lot of guys are taught to repress and suppress their emotions and be this unhealthy masculine guy, because unhealthy masculinity is a real problem where, guys are just, you get two different types of, well, you get lots of different types of guys, but you get the guys who are like really not healthy guys, as in the sense they've got no backbone, they're not very strong these days. They expect women to do all the housework for them, women to be the strong one in the relationship, women to pursue them, and they don't really do very much or bring much to the table. But you've also got the other side where there's some unhealthy guys that are taught to be like so macho and strong that they're bottling their emotions up, suppressing, repressing, and they can't be sensitive, kind, and caring. They haven't got the empathy. And so either of these are unhealthy, You need to find a balance. You need to be able to be a guy and let out your emotions and be sensitive as well as strong, know your own mind and assertive. And so I loved this movie for that bit as well. I loved it all, the special effects, the racing car driving, the simulating, the Nissan, the behind the scenes of the academy and stuff. The fact that the actual guy himself played the stunt double throughout the whole movie, which I never would have known until they said, and the fact the main character's a very healthy guy who's really cool and nerdy, and is just amazing role model for young guys especially. So I really love this movie. Please go and watch Gran Turismo. I cannot speak highly enough of it. I'd love to know what you think when you see the movie. Hope you've enjoyed this full movie review. I have to say thank you to YouTube. Thank you, YouTube, because the cinema ticket was free. I won it as part of YouTube rewards. It's YouTube High Five rewards for my Quirky Books TV channel, actually, to reward my creativity and hard work. And only selected creators get given those rewards. And the rewards actually was a sausage roll, a free prize draw, and YouTube merch. And I wanted the YouTube merch, but what happened was there was a technical difficulty where the prizes said they'd already been claimed when I hadn't claimed them. And they sent me an email actually saying that some people have found this. So I emailed them back saying that they've been claimed, and whilst they were trying to sort out and a couple of emails sent, the technical error lost me the ability to get the merch because it was limited time on the merch. And I can't eat sausage rolls anyway because of my food allergies. So the only thing I could go for was a prize draw, which I was disappointed with. And then they said, as a gesture of goodwill, we'll give you a code to use at a cinema. I'm like, what, what percentage does that get off me? Does it get me a free ticket? So I said, yeah, it gets you a free ticket to one movie. And I knew Gran Turismo was coming out. I loved the trailers. And so I booked it, and I got to see it like first before a lot of people did. There was some other people in the cinema that really was into the movie as well. It was really good. There was a couple of young guys sat next to me, and so it was an incredible experience. And I feel lucky and fortunate I'm one of the first people in the UK certainly to watch it, because I've seen it on the 9th of August when it says it's not out till the 11th. And so, yeah, it's thanks to YouTube I got to see the movie for free and had a treat. So thank you, YouTube. Love you lots. I really appreciate you. And it's good to be appreciated for the work I do. And I can tell you not every crate gets it because I didn't get any rewards for my other channels, including this one, my Quirky Books TV channel. You're welcome to type in youtube.com/quirkybookstv and subscribe to it that way, or go down below on my homepage and you'll see the other channels I have. And on that channel, I've got ad-libbed poetry, life hacks to live your best life, and also behind the scenes events. I don't upload to it much at all usually, but I might have to get back to it because the life hacks were really good. A lot of people like my ad-lib poetry on there as well. I used to do, but I haven't really paid much attention to that channel because I've been on this channel as my main channel, and I'm growing my Asexualise dating and my Make Money Make Cash channels as well as my other two main channels beside this one. But Quirky Bits TV is a favorite of mine in the sense it was the first channel I ever created. Quirky Bits is my brand of book publishing imprint that's a registered publisher in the UK, and it was a dream come true when I created my blog in 2010, quirkybooks.wordpress.com, to always have my book publishing business. And yeah, and I got the imprint when I published Asexual Perspectives, which is now a bestseller on Amazon. So go and grab your copy of Asexual Perspectives book if you haven't already on Amazon, and also Fibromyalgia Self-Help Handbook if you love fibro. I was going to say if you love fibromyalgia, if you love managing fibromyalgia well, if you want less pain, more energy, and feel happier like a superhero rock star, this is a book for you. And if you love Ace Fibro Girl, that's me on the back. And if you love superhero movies and superhero style things, this is a book for you because it's an autobiographical account of how to live your better life, if you like, with a reduction in pain, 25 aspects of your life, even if you don't have fibro. And it's autobiographical, told in a superhero style, really good book. So highly recommend get that as well. And these are both my quirky books. And so that's what my first ever blog was called that I did in 2010. And that's what my other channel's called where I got the awards, Quirky Books TV, that is. And these are both quirky books published by Quirky Books. You can go to any good bookstore and say Quirky Books, Sandra Bellamy, the author, and go and get a copy of these books there as well, not just on Amazon. So yeah, Asexual Perspectives, Fibromyalgia Self-Help Handbook. And thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell icon for more no sex movie reviews and other asexual lifestyle, dating, relationships advice, educational videos, entertainment videos, information about asexuality, and just all things asexual, really. I share my own asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. Don't forget hit the bell icon after you subscribe so you never miss an episode, and share this video with anyone who wants a movie review of Gran Turismo. Lots of love. Don't forget, once you watch the movie, to comment below, come back to this video, comment below what you thought of the movie, share your highs and lows. If you've got any lows, I don't have any lows, and put them in the comments so that everyone else can join in the conversation. Let's keep this community active and ace. Love you lots. Take care. I'll see you soon in the next video live stream. Bye. Thanks for watching.